Hello there and welcome to another Valkyria Chronicles episode with Ungainly Titan, and this kicks off straight away from the previous episode where we covered the first part of this battle. A link here in the video and in the video description, and it's the Imperial turn, so they're going to use their Lancers against the Edelweiss to try and take it out and finish the game in their favour. So first Lancer is fired, second Lancer is fired. There is, I think, that's it. I think we've managed to get rid of one of the other Lancers. The Shock Troopers are now advancing. And you can see how deadly the machine guns are when they operate defensively, because he has to kind of cover a lot of ground in the open under fire from the machine gun that keeps shooting at them. Whereas offensively they generally fire one shot or three shots and that's it. And they're not as effective. Enemy tank also fires, so Edelweiss is actually taking a substantial enough amount of damage. Not enough to take it out, but another round of that would, and another shock trooper comes up and he's going to toss a grenade. Now the grenade isn't going to do any material damage to the bodywork of the Edelweiss, but it does knock a chunk out of the treads. And that is the Imperial turn. So their artillery is going to fire, and it's not going to do any damage. Like I said, the use of artillery is kind of weird in this game, and it's just pretty ineffective. Although I suppose at the same time I couldn't afford to let infantry units remain in the area where the incoming artillery rounds were, because I'd lose them, and I couldn't afford to keep doing that. It'd be costing too much command points to replace them. Now I do make the first of a number of mistakes. I make quite a few mistakes in this battle, and I think it's also actually watching it at the time, the first time I realised. So I won't see it or me taking advantage of it to the same extent in subsequent battles, but facing it seems to be much more important than I've given it credit for in this game. If units aren't looking at something, or their attention isn't drawn to something that's going on, say, off their peripheral vision, they won't react to it, and that's actually significant in terms of setting things up for supporting fire, so that people could provide mutual supporting fire. That you've got to make sure the guy you're expecting support from is actually looking in the direction that the attack is coming from, or that you're attacking into. Now I used a grenade there because I knew the shock trooper was on sufficiently low health that the grenade would probably kill him, and I thought taking out some of the health of the Lancers was worthwhile. Now this, I think, in hindsight, was an overly aggressive move. I am under fire from too many guns, and I'd be better off in the other sandbag wall rather than this one, the one in front of Rosie, where I'm moving her down to now, because she's only drawing aggro from the nearest shock trooper and not from the guy back in the base or the defending tank, unlike Hannah's position where he is actually receiving fire from a number of different targets, and that's it's not good really, and we'd be better off drawing less fire, because I don't really have enough bodies forward to provide the amount of mutual support they should have. Now I also in this battle completely misuse Catherine. I think I don't make enough use of her, and I don't position her well to get the best use out of her over the course of the battles. She has 3 shots available initially, and I should have been making use of those 3 shots and making use of Ramsey then to resupply her, and I should be keeping her in relatively safe locations when I'm doing it. Whereas I finish up taking completely unnecessary risks and therefore don't get the use out of her because she was rendered unable to continue, should we say. And by the time I got to bring anybody on, it's kind of irrelevant to a certain extent. I should, like I said, brought Ramsey on, spent the command points, and also brought on a shock trooper as well at the same time. Also at this point, I think moving Largo up is okay, it's sensible enough, but I didn't bring him up far enough. He's actually too far away to have a decent impact on the light tank from the current location, and also he's inside the incoming fire zone of the enemy artillery. So you can see here in the map that some of his counter overlaps the fire zone, and he's going to take some damage from the incoming fire. And I'd be much better off pushing him a lot further forward, where his lance had been more effective against the enemy tank, he would have been out of the zone of fire of the incoming artillery, and if nothing else, he'd have been another potential target between Hannes and Rosie for the enemy gunners to shoot at, and if they divided their fire equally among everybody, there's a greater chance that any given individual would survive into the fight after that. However, I suppose Hannes is close enough that the sniper draws his aggro when he comes out to shoot, and he takes a fair chunk out of Hannes though. That said, if there was probably no sniper, Hannes might actually survived a bit. Well, he would survived, I think, the fight probably. But that's the way it rolls, and I was a bit overly aggressive. Enemy shock trooper comes out, and again he knocks a chunk out of Hannes, but Hannes returns the favour, but not to the same extent. Those shock troopers seem to be particularly tough and particularly difficult to take down. I'm not too sure how we were in terms of weapon levels and trooper levels at this point in time as well, because you have to keep up with the rate at which the enemy forces are levelling also, so there's always a bit of a pressure on to maximise your experience and get your units levelled, and levelled as quickly as you can. And now we're back around to my turn. So Ramsey's arrived. I now have a reinforcement and I can repair the tank. But I continue to make mistakes in this round and in the next one and the next couple of rounds actually. Some fairly severe errors of judgment, really, looking back at it and looking at the video. So first off, it's relatively uncontroversial. There's nothing wrong with this particular move. I get Ramsey up, I repaired the Edelweiss, and I pretty much leave her there. There isn't anything really wrong with this that I would say. We get most of the hit points back on the Edelweiss, and I think it was well worth doing. It's what I do in subsequent rounds that really are going to cost me, and potentially could have been much more serious if the enemy exploited the situation better than they did. So we have the Edelweiss activated, and we're going after the enemy tank. It's the biggest threat, and we miss completely, which is an awful waste of 2 action points. Would I have done better if I pushed forward? Probably. Again, it would have been in closer range, but then I'd probably be better off activating other units instead and using those other units to take out the 2 Lancers, because the big thing that I don't want to do is present the back of the tank to the Lancers, because if they get the chance to shoot into that radiator, they can take out a tank quite easily. Whereas if they don't generally go behind, they'll walk around the tank a bit. And certainly not with troops behind it. So Largo is going to have the task of finishing off the enemy tank if he can. And he actually manages to do it. His complete destruction of the enemy tank. That clears the door into the final enemy base. But it also gets rid of another fairly dangerous piece of enemy equipment that would stop both the Edelweiss and infantry from getting too close, because of the armoured machine gun position on the front of the tank. So Rosie's going to shoot someone. So the question is whom and what's the most effective person to shoot. She has that target and possibly that target. And I don't mind which one she goes for, but I think it's essential that she takes out the one that she does go for, if I can manage it at all. With only 1 Lancer remaining, there's not much threat, I think, to the tank. We have the main battle tank as well, don't we? Or no, we've managed to take him out as well. But we're out of command points, and it's now the enemy's turn. So they bring on some more reinforcements, some more shock troopers have arrived. Could be worse. Although, don't know. Shock troopers are probably worse than, in terms of my infantry anyway, shock troopers are worse than Lancers, because the shock troopers can shoot my infantry and will do so with a fairly high degree of accuracy, whereas the Lancers try the same thing. They wouldn't be nearly as effective, and this guy's moving forward to shoot Largo, and he throws a grenade at Largo and Rosie, and manages to do some injury to both. He doesn't take too much damage in return. Point blank range shot at the Edelweiss from one of the surviving Lancers, and he takes a small bit of return fire, and that's it. enemy mortar fires, but I don't know why they call it a mortar. It's really an artillery piece. It's more of a howitzer if it's anything, because it's not muzzle loaded. It's a breech loaded device. So it isn't what we traditionally refer to as a mortar, and it's not firing at a particularly high trajectory either in comparison to what actual mortars fire in, although it's high enough given the short range. Now this move was completely wrong. It was just a complete waste of a move. I shouldn't have moved Ramsey at all. It's a completely unsuitable unit for what I wanted to try and do. I was using it trying more in an offensive mode, just to get shots on the shock trooper. But if I was going to do that, I should really be better off using any of the other units. They'd be much more effective at it, and Ramsey took a lot of hits without really achieving anything. So it's a waste of a command point, this particular move. Catherine moving her first. Moving Catherine, moving her to here, and using her to shoot the shock troopers and the remaining enemy troopers would have been a far more useful activity for what I was doing, and she had the 3 shots. I could have activated her 3 times, shot 3 times, and she would probably have gotten a kill or close to a kill on each occasion. I could have very least taken out the Lancer here beside me, and I could have left her at this location. I then taking her out here shooting the shock trooper wasn't such a bad idea, but bringing her down here where she's under fire from the remaining shock trooper was a really bad idea, and that was absolutely unnecessary on my part. So I activate her again, and I don't get a clean headshot here, and I really should have. If I wasn't getting a clean shot of this guy, I should probably have gone for getting a clean shot at the Lancer. The secret I do it, because he would have been beside her, closer, a different kind of target. Taking him out of the fight, I could have brought the Edelweiss down against the enemy base. As it is, I'm going to have to bring Rosie. Rosie's going to get rid of this guy because she can't really leave him behind her. So that is now, I've wasted an action point with the attack on moving Ramsey into a way that wasn't suitable, and I have also potentially wasted an action point just moving the sniper too close. By moving the sniper too close, the initial attack and location wasn't too bad, but just simply moving her too close was effectively being a waste. The flag acts as a barrier, it breaks the line of sight. So I'm better off moving around it so as I can get a clean shot on the shock trooper, but I'm still not getting a clean enough shot. I'm not moving close enough to it. So I am now in a better position to shoot, but I can't seem to get kind of a headshot type shot. They all have very substantial, or at least unknown amounts to kill. Not only do they have unknown amounts to kill, but they also seem to be receiving more, or giving out more damage than they're receiving, which is a bad kind of position to be in, because I'm not actually overly possessed of troops at the moment, and in a strong position, should we say, to deliver a series of rapid knockout blows to the shock troopers. This could go wrong very, very quickly if I don't be careful. Now, I activated Ramsey. I thought I might be able to get a flanking bonus, but again, I think in hindsight it was probably a mistake. But I'm able to use Ramsey's fairly strong movement ability to bring soldiers back, have them medically evacuated so they can be returned to the fight later on, or returned to a subsequent fight, so they won't disappear permanently from my company roster. So I have Hannah's and Catherine out, but I'd have been much better off if I'd kept Catherine in the game, so to speak, and she was now in a position to do this, or to assist in this battle, preferably from a good way back where the enemy can't shoot her. Now, Ramsey's had one of her traits triggered, one that's a negative trait, and she just basically didn't do anything, so she dies in front of the trench without any save or saving throw or anything like that. More to the point, she doesn't trigger any kind of support fire from Rosie, so Rosie's going to have to do the job on her own, or at least she's going to have to do the job with maybe the help of the Edelweiss, and again, Rosie's taking more of a beating than she's delivering to the shock troopers. So I can't really afford to keep this up. I'm going to have to do something. Fortunately for me, I don't have well, there's enemy reinforcements appearing because we weren't able to get rid of the last shock trooper, so we were not able to occupy the enemy base. And this is where I get lucky. Rosie dodges that incoming fire. There's a good chance that this guy would have killed her, if not brought her down to very close to death if he had hit her. And this guy has the same opportunity, and she dodges him as well. So that was a really lucky break on my part. She did a little bit of damage to both of them, but that's not the important bit. The important bit is that Rosie is actually still alive. And I'm not seriously down troops at this point, because it would be, 3 moves to get them up to Rosie's location? 3 or 4 moves. At this point, it would really knock the steam out of my attack, because I would have no effective combatants outside of the, well, I suppose there's Alicia. But other than that, I would have no other effective combatant outside of the Edelweiss itself. So we bring the Edelweiss to bear, and we decide we're going to stop fooling around here. It gets close enough to Ramsey for the medical assistance to come on. So Ramsey it gets evacuated, and then we decide to go with the big gun. And we fire at him with the main battery. We don't kill him outright, but we've softened him up somewhat. We've removed nearly 2/3 of his hit points, which was more than anything we'd been doing before this. So now it is back down to, we're going to trigger the Edelweiss again. We don't have a lot of command points left, but we want to get rid of this guy. And I'm going to use the machine gun this time, but I'm going to see if I can get a fairly precise shot. So we go with a headshot. We shoot him in the head, we take him out completely with 1 shot. Now I'm going to drive up here over the shock trooper. I'm going to hit him a few times with the Edelweiss. As far as I know, when you hit him with a vehicle, it doesn't really damage them. It just knocks them out of the way, really. But the thing is, I'm taking him away from the sandbags. He's not getting the benefit of the cover. He now finishes up standing in front of the Edelweiss. So he's going to be out in the open, and he won't be getting kind of any protection benefits from cover. And he's not in the base, which means that Rosie can occupy the base. So there's no further reinforcements that can come onto this particular camp. So the camp is occupied. Rosie moves up besides, and she's going to get assistance from the tank as well. And we put a few rounds into him, we finish him off. So that takes him out of the fight. And we've now cleared the enemy from the area in front of the gatehouse up here. So there's another enclosure at the other side of that gatehouse, and once we capture that, we have completed the objective, and the Squad 7 are able to escape the Imperial forces in the woods and return to Rangris without any further interference. At this point, I also decided to bring on reinforcements. It's a bit late. Actually, I don't need them, it turns out. I should have probably done it earlier, and I should have brought on more reinforcements earlier when I had the opportunity to do it. But as you can see, there are only 3 left out of the 8 potential, so I didn't know what was on the other side. And this is why I was bringing on reinforcements mostly, including another engineer. I thought there might be more lancers and stuff like that. You don't know what the enemy could do, or they had the opportunity to bring on reinforcements. But it turns out they didn't have any reinforcements sort of scheduled for the other base, so that the reinforcements, when it comes into the enemy phase, you get reinforcement requests cancelled. So they didn't bring on any at all, and then their movement goes, we don't know what's happening, we can't see anything, and kaboom with the incoming mortar round, and now it's back down to my turn again. So off we go again. Our reinforcements kind of have arrived. The enemy mortar targets another area of our camp, and we get our command points, and now I can move the Edelweiss or whatever. So I'm moving the Edelweiss first because I want to break down that gate. So I reckon the Edelweiss can probably drive through the wall, which is what I'm going to attempt to do first. And we drive up to the wall crumbles and crashes down to the ground, and we get through to the other side, and we discover the enemy camp is defended by only a single Stormtrooper, and we're going to use the mortar to get rid of the Stormtrooper, or at least wound him down. Gets rid of his cover, and it blows him to the back of the map and just completely kills him. We then push forward with the Aid of Ice just to clear the gate, get us into the building properly so that I'll have room behind it to bring in shock troopers or other troopers, and then take over the enemy base with an infantry unit. And Rosie will kick off. She seems to be back to full health. And off we go. So we take her around. We take her around the back of the tank. We try and avoid the anti-tank mines, or the anti-tank mines, and we get her. That's as close as we can manage. She doesn't quite make it to the flagpole, and we'll try one more command point to get her right up to the flagpole. See if we can get her into the building and occupy the base. So she gets the occupy command, and she occupies the base, and now the operation is complete and we're done. So Squad 7 has escaped the Imperium trap in the Wild Woods, Cloden Woods, and is now back onto Rangris. And I will catch you again in the next episode. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like and a share. Feel free to comment. If you've not already done so, please subscribe. I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.